everyone, it's Shooter. Hey, let's try and do this justice today. Hey, we're going to take a look at weekend box scores. Might be a few more minutes than my normal video just because a couple things I want to address. So at the end of the presentation, please do review our disclosures. Okay, this is going to be Swing Trade Notes edition. Now, first of all, a couple things that really sort of stuck out to me. I didn't like what was, anytime, recalling what happened in the Gulf War and the beginning of the Ukrainian war, we always have a little bit of a back test with a type of war event. But on top of that, there were other technical reasons or conditions that led to my bias that we might hit a little bit lower. And one of them was with how aggressive this leg was. Even though we were expecting it, really it's this candle where I got nervous. And part of it is because of the back test. Right now, we should still go a little bit lower at 90 to maybe 98.86, all right? But then why did so many names come off that were pumping? So, that sort of spooked me a little bit because a lot of the positions I have were a little tight. So there's not a lot of room in those. And, swinging short term has been extremely difficult outside of 2 weeks because the premium's just all over the map. So, in that, once the premium came off on my P&L with pretty much everything I had opened, that was it. I started trimming. And that's where I posted that in the room. So I'm looking for a back test on the dollar of maybe 100 to 101, but that will put more weight on the indices and the stocks that have turned lower. So I'm like, I don't want to take that risk into bank earnings is sort of where my thought was. So, I'm looking for a very aggressive push, looking at the daily, maybe to 98.23, but that doesn't mean we don't back test this breakdown line. That's sort of my thought on the dollar. Now, TLT, we look good. We've came right off that 98.82, sort of nailed that figure in the count. However, the back test doesn't necessarily mean we're done. So I want to have a back test, put in a higher low. Then I might get a little more interested in chasing it here, even with this count. And part of the reasons is because when you have this type of triangle or flat, they're not directional. It's not like a wedge, which resolves itself, 70% of the time to the upside. This is more like a 56% number. So there's not as high of a likelihood that that's going to manifest. So that is my thought. Then on top of that, when I come out and I look at the monthly here on TLT, this doesn't look done to me. It's not how we end. Usually you get, if you look at our legs, we really should have come back up and really tested this resistance that we had from 2008, which was our band up here. We didn't even get close. I mean, we really came in here and we rejected this price range here. It came right to it. Notice where we went here and we came off this much. Well, that's what I'm thinking here. I'm thinking we get this kind of leg lower. Now, it may only go down to, 2001 supported at 82.53, but I don't want to ride that out to the long side. We got plenty of room to the upside, and we'll get more conviction once we have a divergent low in on the larger timeframes. And that's not going to happen in a couple weeks. I'm talking like October through December, maybe. It doesn't mean we don't get there first, but just the overall look. So let me continue on here. So let's take a look at earnings. Interesting week, we have, basically banks on Monday and then Tuesday morning. So Bank of America is really the big, I want to see how many of these banks are reporting loan loss numbers. That was another thing that weighed on me going to this. I just didn't like the way premium came off with bank earnings and the fact that many of the banks that pumped on their earnings gave it back. So when I'm looking at that as the collective, that's where ultimately my decision came from. So now my bias directional has not changed even in this push because I think we're in a larger flat at this point. However, that's still yet to be seen. Now, SubX always runs, Starbucks always runs into earnings. Always. It's always been a good play. So now the difficulty is we're sort of sitting right at our target of 101.50. I mean, so we're sort of stuck there at the moment, with what was going on at the end of the week since we entered. But realize, I'm thinking if we're weak going into the count, maybe I get a little shallower on the strike so I can add, 102s or 103s since I really just have a little more than a starter position in on this. So there's no issue with adding. I'd rather it be acting better. And on top of that, we don't have earnings until August 1st. So we're a couple weeks out. Now, Marathon's a little complicated because we came off, basically my stop now in the remainder positions that I have open, which are, $19 calls. We're looking at maybe 17.31 and then we're going to be out. So, however, it looks like we're going to confirm here. So I'm still hoping we get a little more upside and I could jump back on board. So at that point, I'm going to add 2022 maybe. But I really didn't like the premium and I don't like the look of the count where we're breaking down here. So this is the larger picture. So this is count one came in, or target one at 1943. And then, target two is way the heck down here. So that's, one of the reasons I had a problem chasing Marathon from this breakout, really even down here where we say, just because the count didn't agree with me. And that's one of my rules. Very often do you see me take trades where the count doesn't agree with my direction, period. I don't care what the micro or macro is. It's just, I don't like doing it because there's been too many times where it's gone against me. So now I like the upside in Hive, but it's similar to Marathon at this point. So, we got our 694 already. We overshot our 3, which is good. So I'm biased for more upside, but we might get a little back just here to about 483. So I collectively held Hive because I think it has some great upside. But at the same time, I also held Hive because of the Bit Farms chart, which has a huge upside, maybe to 950 here. The count supports to the upside. It handled it really well. It's one of the better looking charts that we have out there. On top of that, this volume just was huge. So realize this miner has the lowest cost of production in Bitcoin, which is why I like it. It's the only clean energy Bitfarm. So, there's a likelihood that they're going to start getting some tax credits. And what are we chasing because of tax credits? Amentus. So, this just adds to the collective view. I want a position on here. I want to add. I don't want to subtract from it. We get back down to that 176 here, and then I'll be adding is my thought. All right. So now BAC, this is my thesis into bank earnings. I think it weighs, they just reported that $100 million fine because they were opening accounts illegally, just like Wells Fargo. What did Wells Fargo do? Wells Fargo gave back a little bit, quite a little bit, after that news just continually progressed. So, I think this is just where we opened up the can and we haven't seen the worms yet, is my thought. And on top of that, like I've said before, my thought is that, in the Great Recession, Bank of America went to $2.50. On top of that, they've tripled the amount of trash they have on their books. So they're heavy on derivatives. And, even though Chase, almost doubled their income. I don't know how they doubled their income, but they almost doubled their income. I don't know that we're going to see that with Bank of America. I think that had a little to do with their acquisitions, and I'm not exactly sure, with the banking crisis that we had there a little bit. BAC was not involved in that. So I think Chase is a different beast at this point. So that's my thought there. Now, just looking at the SPY, now I'm looking for this 447. I'm not at this point looking for a huge breakdown. However, let's look at RSI here specifically. Confirmed, divergent, and we overshot. Okay. That is my most consistent topping pattern with RSI. So there would be nothing that would prohibit this. Okay. Now, right now, this is showing as a impulse wave, and I can't pull this 4 down. Okay. There would be nothing that says this top comes in, because realize this top came in here. We could come in, put one more little top here with whatever. If we get a push Monday, and then bam, this could extend to an ending diagonal and put us somewhere between the 8-day and the 50-day. So, that is another reason, when I was looking at that, why I wanted to trim, because I just didn't like the upside. I didn't like the news that was coming in there. On top of that, when we look at the NASDAQ, we put it in a nice candle, but we gave more than 50% of it back. See, this is bullish, this type of candle where we close at the top of the range or the above 50% or above 50%. It is not bullish when we close at the bottom of the range. Look at this candle. We close at the bottom of the range. What do we do? Okay. We came right back, gave 50% of the leg here. So what would that mean? 50% of the leg is down back at the 8-day. That was another reason I trimmed, just, frankly. Okay, looking at Bitcoin. Now, I did not like the way this came off. Partially is because of how we put our top in, our high here. right at that 31,400 or 486, excuse me. Then we broke out and rejected it. Notice how far that wick on that candle is for the close. We gave it all back, okay? What do we do here? We gave it all back, okay? So my thought is this right here, this breakout or breakdown, this band or this breakout, this second wick up needs to hold. Otherwise, I think we get a back test of this March 23 support. That's just my thought there. I could be totally wrong here. However, looking at RSI, which I apologize, I'm noticing now I don't have that marked, but not really a confirmed high because this is, actually it might be a confirmed high. I can't adjust the chart, so you'll have to forgive me. Maybe that was a confirmed high, divergent high, and one more divergence high. So what is that? Drive 1, drive 2, drive 3. Now it's only on the daily, but I'm looking for 50% back, and that's the reason I trimmed as far as crypto is concerned. That right there, that candle and this look. So, all right, I always have a reason. Doesn't necessarily mean it's right. Okay. Now, and the third reason when it comes down to Bitcoin is we really are rejecting this a little bit. I don't like that. Maybe we need to get back test and put in a higher low around the 200 before we have enough ammo to get up and out. On top of that, we did not really go freaking nuts on XRP news. So that was a little disappointing for me. Okay, now looking at GBTC, now right here, notice where this wick is up, and our candle up and our off number here closed at 2187. Where did we get to? I think I got my charts wrong. I might have to fix that. Where is it? GBTC. I've got it in the wrong spot. I'm sorry. I'll have to go in and change that. I need a monthly Bitcoin chart there. Now GBTC, man, I'm just noticing I got all the charts screwed up. Okay, so I only have a monthly. I'll add the daily, but the reality is that huge rejection of price. So it was a failed breakout. We came right to it and gave it back. Okay, so we're rejecting it right there a little bit on GBTC. So that is my thought. Now, again, my stop is at 1731 because, I've got a count up here at 24, but there's nothing. It's not going to go wrong. It's just my positions are so tight at this point. I've got, I held GBTC maybe longer than I should have on the downside. So, I have some ownership at 1634, I think. So my average cost of ownership on GBTC is like $11 here. So even though I got some decent side to the upside, I'm trying to stay in it because every time I get shaken out in it, I tend to lose ground a little bit. So now I'm thinking more like position trade when it comes to GBTC. Now our discrepancy between spot is now closer to 50%. So we don't have that much of an extreme. On a positive note, with what was going on with the SEC filings, they recognized 3 different filings for a spot Bitcoin ETF. So I don't know if that carries any weight, but they sure are getting ganged up on, and it would be very difficult if all of a sudden those 4 other brokers joined GBTC in their suit in court. It might have a little more weight because now you've got 60-70% of America's retirement accounts saying, hey, you got no legal reason not to give us a spot Bitcoin ETF. What the hell's going on? So that's positive. So, that's my thought. Now, Ethereum, this was a prior breakout. This was our overshoot, and then we gave it back, but we're building out this base. So, my thought is that we come back down maybe the 50-day with market weakness. But, right now I've got no reason to say Ethereum is going to break down. We've just been in this flat, since April. Okay, so that's just my thought. Now, looking at XRP. Now, this was rough. I mean, we wicked up to, just under $1, and, I was holding, and, I think it was 77.8 cents. I took half off and put in a trailing stop at 7 cents. So, about 70 cents I'll get taken out. A lot of this is what I refer to as a news-driven event, and I don't like the count doesn't support it. So let me just go to my notes here a second. This was a news-driven event. First rule, did the 50% back hold after the pop? No. So that was one of my rules to hold. Didn't happen. So second question, does the count support the continuation? No. Take profits. That's how simple that was. All right. So that's what I've got for today, folks. Great trading. Until next time.